It's 2024 and it's non-stop phones already. The Redmi Note 13 series has launched. But does it have what it takes to be an iconic shot in your life? It's an incredibly long list of different models and variants, and I have two of them today from both extremes. In the less than 1,000 ringgit range, the Redmi Note 13, and the 1,500 range, the Redmi Note 13 Pro Plus 5G. So let's take a look and understand what it means to have these kind of devices at the start of the year. It's been 10 years. Redmi has always been the very beacon of hope for people who have been looking for a feature-packed phone at a wallet-friendly price. And it's a whole new experience. They've designed it from the ground up in terms of design, and of course with the usual bump in specs. There's a lot to talk about today. While they weren't much to look at back then, honestly, I can say that it's definitely not the same with the Note 13 series because of something called fusion design. These are very different in design right now. It's no longer uniform. You can see just how different they are. The Redmi Note 13 has this very reflective, very pearlescent finish, whereas the more expensive Note 13 Pro 5G has fusion design, which showcases bodies with rounded edges with enough flatness at the bottom for both phones to stand on their own. The Redmi Note 13 Pro Plus 5G has a glossy glass back with two different shades of black on this unit, with very eye-catching elements being at the very top, showing off its darkest black that's separated by etchings to segmentize individual modules to give attention-grabbing contrast to the huge cameras, flash module, and branding. The Redmi Note 13 might not be as flashy, but it does carry its own style, showing off the same approach, but with wavy pearlescent finishes that shifts when you're moving the phone around. Both phones have had their IP ratings improved. The Redmi Note 13 Pro Plus 5G has an IP68 rating right now, which is like something that you only see on flagship level phones. It's now on the mid-range, whereas the more budget-focused Redmi Note 13 comes with an IP54 rating, which is still pretty good. Both are definitely able to handle heavy splashes of water, while its bigger brother is able to just be submerged in water for up to 30 minutes, 1.5 meters, the usual. As for glass protection, the Redmi Note 13 Pro Plus 5G has Corning Gorilla Glass Victus, while the Redmi Note 13 has Corning Gorilla Glass 3, which are both pretty good, very industry standard practices. These phones are able to handle your standard scratches here and there, and it will take a lot more effort to get these screens cracked, so nothing to complain about there. So let's talk about the more important stuff, which are the cameras. This is the time where you really start to see the Redmi Note 13 series is all about this business. The Redmi Note 13 Pro Plus 5G is the star of the show here, featuring a true 200 megapixel ISOCELL HP3 sensor that produces 12.5 megapixel images, supported by an 8 megapixel ultra wide and a macro sensor. It does very well with zooms. Although it doesn't have a dedicated hardware zoom lens, everything is done on digital crop, focusing on that one big sensor. But because you have such an abundance of, megapixels, zooming between 2 to 4 times in focal length, digitally of course, it wasn't that bad. It was actually pretty okay. I can see a lot of detail has been preserved, the colors are consistent, the dynamic range is wide enough, and the contrast remains respectable. I can't help but feel that this has its own personal style. It's pretty unique, and I think a lot of people who wanted to get into photography but did not want to spend more than 1,500, not more than 2,000 ringgit, can easily pick this up for photography purposes and even video. You can shoot up to 4K on this. It's very budget friendly, and it didn't really compromise on quality at all compared to other phones that are of the similar range that will come out this year. The Redmi Note 13 is also part of that high megapixel bandwagon, and it doesn't just stop here at 200 megapixels on the Pro Plus 5G. Then the Redmi Note 13 has its own 108 megapixel main camera that would follow the same doctrine. So instead of 2 to 4 times, you could say between 2 to 3 times of lossless zoom here, digitally lossless zoom I will add. It also does not have a dedicated hardware lens for zooming, and it does a pretty good job because look, we're under 1,000 ringgit. That space is hugely competitive right now, and everybody is trying to one-up each other, and the Redmi Note 13 takes a direction where they want to focus more on having one really good expensive camera that's flanked by the same 8 megapixel ultra wide and 2 megapixel macro sensor. And I think that's a really good decision because that's the sensor that everybody would use every day. And if you want to see everyday shots just like these, the level of sharpness is there. It's still pretty decent. The colors are, I would say, just a little bit saturated, but of course that's more of a post thing. You can always edit these photos in your own spare time, but when you go up to that 3 times of crop, that was something that I could really admire because the level of detail was still preserved, like I said, and I think that's a pretty good job on the software front because, you know, I never really think about camera software when it comes to MIUI, but I can see that the brand is really committed to making better post-processing techniques. So this is something that you can definitely place your trust on at that less than 1,000 ringgit range. But when it comes to the daily drive, are these two phones good and any good? Obviously, that's another question to ask. Both are AMOLED screens now, and the Redmi Note 13 Pro Plus 5G goes up to 1.5K resolution, whereas the Redmi Note 13 goes up to Full HD Plus, which are, well, the industry standards. The colors are great. The smoothness is there because both support up to 120 Hz in refresh rate. You can adjust it dynamically in the settings to see whatever suits you. But either way, these are feature-packed devices. Both are able to play games really well. Obviously, the higher-end Redmi Note 13 Pro Plus 5G is able to play at higher graphical settings and maintaining that high refresh rate, whereas the Redmi Note 13, it's fitted with a slightly dated Qualcomm Snapdragon 635 chipset. You're still able to get up to 60 FPS on games like Call of Duty and definitely Mobile Legends Bang Bang. Either way, neither the Redmi Note 13 or the Redmi Note 13 Pro Plus 5G are designated to be gaming phones anyway, but it's good to know that they could run games at, well, certain levels of performance. But yeah, these phones are incredibly feature-packed right now. They do so much for you and they cost really just so little. Their price point for, let's say, their internal memory is actually pretty crazy, you know. For the Redmi Note 13 Pro Plus 5G, it's $15.99 for an 8 gigs of RAM with 256 gigs of internal storage, whereas you top up another 400 ringgit on top of that, it's 12 gigs of RAM and 512 gigs of internal storage, which is good, under 2,000 ringgit for just all that memory. The Redmi Note 13 takes a more budget-friendly approach, like I told you before. The 6 gigs plus 128 gigs, this one right here, is just 749 ringgit, and moving upwards to 8 gigs and 256 gigs is 899 ringgit, really below 900 ringgit. So I would suggest to pick this up over the 128 because that's just a preference thing and you get so much more memory from just a very small top-up amount. So that's something that is a very valid justification for more investment. So there's that. And of course, we can't end the video with just all that. What about the battery life? I'm sure definitely these two phones are able to last at least a full day with some change brought forward because they both pack 5,000 milliamp batteries, and charging them up is incredibly fast because the Redmi Note 13 Pro Plus 5G comes with a 120 watt charger, which takes about 20 minutes to fully charge. That's a real beast right there. And the Redmi Note 13 comes with a 33 watt fast charger in the box, which takes about an hour to fully charge, which is still pretty good for today's standards. You can charge it in the morning when you're getting ready and it's fully charged when you're ready to go out and start your day. So what do I think about these really two great choices? I mean, it just seems to me that the Redmi Note series had gone through a lot of growing up, and both the Note 13 and 13 Pro Plus 5G are fine examples of a series that differ a lot in price, but gives you more than enough to cover your daily use that encompasses what a daily savvy hustler would be doing, from taking lots of photos, playing games, watching and shooting videos, and doing it all over again with low downtime. But the main characteristics are its zooming capabilities because you have so much megapixels to play around with. Please zoom in with these phones as confidently as you possibly can because they're just that good. The tech will always improve and it should serve as a vessel of encouragement for you to keep practicing and exploring as many different ways to be creative with your photography and to make every shot iconic, because that's what they're all about now. Thank you guys for watching. I'm Zenday Geek and I'll see you guys in the next video.